In this episode, I speak with Davana. She has had 2 births outside of the medical system following a very unnecessary cesarean with her first child. Davana's first birth ended abruptly with an unnecessary cesarean for a baby that during a non-stress test showed no heart tones. Without further information to back this finding, Davana was fully put under anesthesia to have her baby cut from her body. She later came to the realization that the information given to her was false, as it happens for most, if not all, quote unquote, emergency cesareans. Because Davana never had the chance to even feel what the start of her birth process could feel like, she chose to take her power back the second time she got pregnant. Davana had a wild pregnancy, not seeking any medical care, and then went on to birth free of the medical system during a huge snowstorm that hit Texas a few years back. Her third pregnancy was wild as well, but nearing the end of this pregnancy, Davana was hit with some news that could have completely rocked her to her core. She does mention that it did a little bit and there was some processing and grieving to do, but Davana chose to hold on to the idea of loving kindness over misery for the situation that she was thrust into and birthed this third baby free of the medical system too. Sit back and listen to the amazing journey to freedom that Davana has been on since the unnecessary cesarean birth of her first child, to reclaiming her power and birthing on her own terms with her second and third babies. Hello, Davana. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to hear your 3 birth stories that you're going to share.
Hello, Karma. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries. I remember reaching out to you when you were still pregnant, the very end of this third pregnancy. And then we had an interview scheduled, and then you rescheduled for after this babe was born. So I feel really honored to be able to hear this story and have this to share with people when it's ready to come out. So
yeah, thank you. Grateful to be here. I love this platform that you're creating for women and mothers to come share their stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually in my golden month right now of my 42 days of postpartum. So it feels sweet to be sharing the story while I'm in this sweet sacred season.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Okay. Well, before we get into your beautiful birth stories, I just want to ask you, what is the ancestry and lineage that you're passing on to your children?
So my mother's side is from European, Scottish, English, Czechoslovakia. I have never done an ancestry test, so I don't know. That's what she knows.
Mm-hmm.
And for my father, African descent, don't know exactly where in Africa. I know that my great grandfather was full Native American as well on my dad's side.
Okay.
And I do have ancestors. My last name, Singletary, is a slave owner name, and they were on the East Coast in North Carolina, South Carolina over there. So I know that my ancestors were also enslaved. So I'm excited to one day do a DNA test or ancestry test and really learn more.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's amazing that even back to your great grandfather, because some people only know up to their parents, their grandparents, and that's it. So yeah, having that knowledge is really, really cool. So yeah, I'm very excited to ask you this next question. Where does your motherhood journey begin?
So my motherhood journey begins in 2017 in Indonesia, in Bali, where I conceived my first son. And I actually arrived back to the United States, separated from my partner. He had let me go. We had a whole ceremony of letting each other go. When I was coming back to California, he was staying in Bali. And then I found out a month later that I was pregnant. So I went into the underworld of deciding what I was going to do, if I was going to choose to become a mother, if we were going to get back together. It was all unknown. So
Mm.
it was a very powerful journey of me to decide yes, even though I didn't know if we would stay together or not.
Mhm.
Um, and we ended up getting back together, saying yes to life.
Mm.
And at the time, we were traveling a lot. I went back to Bali. We were in Thailand. A volcano was scheduled to be erupting. They knew they were tracking this volcano, and they knew it was going to be erupting. And so a lot of people left Bali, and we decided to leave in November. And the day after we left, the volcano ended up erupting.
Whoa.
And I know, and the
Wow.
airports shut down, and we were in California and decided to stay and not go back to Bali. We had tickets to go back and live there, but we
Mm.
decided to make our life in California and raise and have the baby in California.
Mm.
But I had thought I was going to be birthing in Bali, so I was looking at different options,
Mhm.
and there was a gentle birthing center called Bumi Sehat,
Mhm.
and I went to go look at it. And when I arrived there, they let me know that they no longer have birthing tubs. That was one thing I was excited to do. I wanted to birth in the water, and they told me that
Right.
the government actually made them take out all their birth tubs because that they're not safe or they don't believe in water births. So I felt like that
Wow.
was, yeah, I felt like that was kind of my first detour of like, this might not go as you're planning.
Mhm.
Um, so I continued to seek care back in California through my insurance, seeing different doctors based on kind of where I was living and traveling and moving to. And then finally just decided I'm going to birth in the hospital because
Mm.
I'm exhausted and my insurance is paying fully for it. And at the time, $6,000 for a midwife just seemed like too much for us. And looking back, it's like, no, it is
Mhm.
priceless, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and so I thought basically that my story was going to be showing women that you can have a natural birth in a hospital, that you can have an unmedicated birth. Just go in there with your essential oils and your plan and your electronic candles and your music, and you'll be
Mhm.
good.
Right.
That was my thought.
Yeah.
But it ended up being exactly like we read in all the things. I ended up having a OBGYN that basically belittled me, and I felt really infantilized and spoken down to, and all the things.
Mhm.
But I stayed. So I didn't leave because I wasn't yet in my power to say no. I didn't yet have the awareness and education to have a free birth. I didn't yet know what free
Mm.
birth was.
Yeah.
I think I found Free Birth Society at like the very end of my pregnancy,
Mhm.
but I just essentially thought I had nowhere else to go, that this was, I couldn't leave.
Right.
And I did try. I found a birthing center actually down the street from my house, and they stopped taking patients at 36 weeks. And I was 37 weeks when I called them. And I was like, please, I was
Um.
begging them. And they were like, nope, sorry.
Mhm.
Our new clients, new customers.
Mhm.
And so I ended up essentially having an emergency C-section where I
Mhm.
got put to sleep under general anesthesia for
Wow.
my first birth. And the reasoning was that they couldn't find the baby's heartbeat on the
Right.
during the non-stress tests, which I later learned that this is very common to have these false negatives where they can't find the heartbeat.
Mhm.
Um, and I was 42 in 2 weeks past
Mhm.
my due date. And so
Yeah.
my doctor wanted to have me keep coming in. You know, at like 40 weeks, she wanted me to come in. Even at 38 weeks, she was actually letting me know that she wanted to induce me at 38 weeks. And she had asked
Wow.
me if I was an elephant. She made a comment, a remark asking me if I was an elephant because elephants gestate for 2 years.
Seriously, she
Um,
said that to you.
mhm,
That's so rude.
I know. And she was also telling me that she had a funeral to go to, that a
Mm.
family member that passed transitioned and she had a funeral to get to. So she was letting me know my clock was ticking, you know, that her scheduling was
Mhm. More important. Yeah. Oh God.
yeah. And so I end up going under, full unconscious for this birth.
Wow.
I when I woke up, the first sentence I said, the first thing I asked was, "Where's my placenta?"
Mm.
because that was on my birth plan that I had written, that I was going to keep my placenta and have it encapsulated. But
Mhm.
I don't know if they even read the birth plans.
Yeah.
And they had it sent down to the basement with all the other placentas, and I
Mhm.
had them go get it, and they were able to, because they put my name on a post-it note on the bag, on the plastic
Mm.
bag it was in. So I was able to reclaim my placenta,
Wow,
and I
good.
had that encapsulated. Yeah, that I was on fentanyl, that I
Mm.
got, that I had to push the button and was basically dosing myself with fentanyl for pain reliever, and then they gave me
Mhm.
Oxycontin after that, and I
Wow.
didn't refill my prescription. So I was
That's
on all
heavy
the things.
drugs.
Heavy drugs,
Whoa.
heavy, yeah. Which I think is interesting, and they kept telling me like to take the full dose, because I was only taking half that they were giving me. The nurses came in, they're like, no, you need to take more, so that basically they say when women don't, that it drags it out longer, that they end up having to be on the pills longer because they're not just
Mm.
taking the full strength. But I
Mm.
didn't listen to them. I'm glad I didn't need to refill my prescription, and was in kind of a grief mourning for a little bit, about it not going the way I planned. But I was also very grateful. It brought this deep sense of gratitude. I don't know, because I was just grateful to be alive, because I thought I
Mm.
was going to die when they were wheeling me into the emergency room, and I
Right.
was
And
just so
can I
great.
just ask
Yeah,
quickly, then that whole situation when you went to the hospital to get your non-stress test, like what
yeah.
was that like, going from getting the stress test, them
Okay,
saying there's no heartbeat, and then all of a sudden they're like, you need to get this baby
yeah.
shit out of you. Like, what was that like for you?
Okay, yeah. So that part. So I was going in for a few tests, the days before, and I would go home. And then it was International Women's Day, and I remember they called me. They called me. They're like, we want you to come in today for your tests." And I remember thinking like, "Oh, I don't want to go. I was just there all day yesterday. Everything was fine."
Mm-hmm.
And so I take my time. I take an Uber there, and they're monitoring me. And then she looks at the chart, and she's like, "This doesn't look good. I think you should go up to labor and delivery." So they put me in a wheelchair
Mm.
and wheel me already. So they're letting me know, like, we have the power, like, you can't
Yeah.
walk, right? So
Yeah.
they wheelchair me up into labor and delivery. And the first thing I asked the nurse was, are they going to make me do Pictocin? I was just terrified that they were going to do that. And she was like, no, don't worry. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. That's what she told me. And I was like, ooh, I trust her.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're hooking me up to a different non-stress test in the hospital bed. I think did they give me an IV? I don't remember. But anyway, I'm laying on my back,
Mm.
and all of a sudden they come running in. This isn't good. This isn't good. Like, we can't find his heart rate. We can't find his heartbeat.
Mm.
And she hands me a clipboard, and she says, you have to do this for your baby. And it says emergency C-section, emergency cesarean. And I remember just like the terror that just flooded me, like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. It felt so surreal. Like,
Mm-hmm.
woof. And it was interesting because a male doctor came in, and he actually checked me. He was like, wait, let's see how far dilated she is, and maybe we could do this vaginally, which actually,
Mm.
looking back, lets me know that it wasn't truly an emergency, because if it was, that wouldn't even have been an option.
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
wouldn't even have taken the time to have a doctor check me and be like, maybe there's another possibility if
Mm-hmm.
it truly was this emergency. So he was like, oh, she's only 2 centimeters. Okay, we got to go do the C-section, right? So they wheel me in. I just remember thinking, like, I'm going to die. Like, this, here it goes. I'm not going to wake up. They were
Wow.
like, no time for an epidural. There's no time for an
Mm-hmm.
epidural. We have to put you out, which I'm actually grateful for in a way. I think for me, just going out was better than getting a spinal and not being able to feel my legs and having to be cut open, like, and be awake for all
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
God probably gifted me, like, just go to sleep.
Wow. Wow.
Um, I know. And I remember getting the catheter. That was so uncomfortable. They like put the
Mm.
catheter. I'm just in. All of a sudden, it's a scene from a movie. There's 10 people. Here comes my doctor. She's been waiting for this moment, putting on her white coat, snapping on her gloves, like,
Mm-hmm.
and the anesthesiologist counting down. And I don't even remember what they gave me to pass out, but start counting backwards, and boom, lights out.
Yeah. Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
That's wow. That's so crazy how like this whole little charade that they put on to do this when it was completely obviously unnecessary. Oh, I'm so sorry that that happened. But like you said, you're grateful for it. So.
Yeah, that's like kind of how I view all of life. I always
Mm-hmm.
try to find like the,
Mm-hmm.
the gratitude and the silver lining and trust that everything's divine, and also,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Wow.
could there have been another way if I was more educated? Is that what my soul needed to come into
Right.
greater consciousness? There's so many
Exactly.
pieces involved.
Yeah, that was the catalyst clearly for your next birth stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, how was that recovery for you then with
It was
that?
awful. Oh my gosh, recovering from a C-section is like insane to me, like having to nurse and care for a new baby while we have like, what is it, the second most invasive surgery, I think,
Mm-hmm.
after heart surgery is a
Yeah.
C-section, a cesarean. And so um, I had my essential oils that really helped me a lot. And just the gratitude and, the endorphins and the hormones that are flowing helped me a lot and breastfeeding was very beautiful and easy for me. So that I think helped me a lot. I didn't have to now go into a whole stressful situation with nursing, which
Right.
I'm grateful for. So breastfeeding was easy. And we had my partner's mom come and live with us, and she cooked dinner every night for 9 months. So we had her support and her
Wow.
help. We also were caretaking for her because we realized she had dementia when she
Okay.
moved in with us. So it was actually a lot too for us.
Mm-hmm.
But she did help. And this was before I really knew about all the sacred postpartum wisdom that I know now. So I
Mm-hmm.
remember like my third week, I went out to some event and my stitch hurt so bad and I was bleeding a lot. And that basically let me know, like whenever my stitch would hurt,
Yeah.
that I was doing too much. I was up too much. I was walking too much.
Mm-hmm.
And my partner, Albert, he didn't have paternity leave. So he was just off to work like that Monday. Kyra was
Wow.
born on a Thursday and then Albert was off to work that Monday. So I was home by myself the first month before his mom got there.
Mm.
And my mom would come here and there, check in, help make me some food. And it was overall, I was grateful. That time is so beautiful to me when I look back at that postpartum time for what I knew then. It was
Mm-hmm.
a nice time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then for my second birth,
Mm-hmm.
when I found out that I was pregnant from my moon not coming, my bleed not coming, I knew right away that I was not going to take a pregnancy test, that I didn't want to look outside of myself for any confirmation that I was pregnant. It was
Right.
basically setting the stage for the way that this next pregnancy and birth was going to unfold, which was
Right.
a wild pregnancy
Yeah.
and a beautiful, blissful birth at home. And
Mm.
so it
And
started off,
how far along are your two, the first and
oh,
second?
3
Okay.
years exactly from the birth, like from when he was born. So I was
Mm-hmm.
there. Kyra was 2
Mm-hmm.
when I conceived the second
Okay.
baby,
Yeah.
and this baby was conceived in Maui. So
Wow.
another island baby conception,
Mm-hmm.
and this was in 2020.
Mm.
So all the world,
Yeah.
was in a whole different place, and we knew when we came back from Hawaii, we were there for 3 months.
Wow.
We actually flew into Maui. We had this trip planned and we flew in. And that night that we flew in, the airport shut down
Oh, wow.
for lockdown.
Mm.
So we were there for 3 months. Our flights kept getting canceled and canceled and canceled. And we had this beautiful situation living at our friend's parents' house. And their parents were in Mexico for the whole time. They didn't want to come back. So we had this
Mm.
beautiful house and all of our 10 family friends, soul fam living with us. We were all
Mm.
living together. And we knew when we came back from Maui that we Cali was different. The energy shifted. We didn't want to be there. And so we were open to where we were going to move. And I knew that I didn't want to do the same thing I did with the first pregnancy and have all these different doctors because I was traveling and moving. And I was like, I'll just wait until we get to where we're going. And then maybe I'll have a midwife and have a home birth with a midwife. But let me just first see where we're going to land.
Mm.
So I just had no prenatal care purposely during the pregnancy. because I wanted to drop into the wisdom of my body, and I wanted to know what happens when we fully just allow ourselves to be. What did all the women before us do before ultrasounds and the rise of the industrialized medical system? What did our ancestors do? How did they give birth? How did they experience pregnancy? And that was the wisdom I tapped into. And it was so freeing. It was so liberating to just be in a pregnancy and not have to like go to doctor's appointments every month and every week, and just
I love
be
that.
in like the natural way of the body. It was just allowed you to drop in and listen. If something felt wrong, if I intuitively felt like I needed to go see someone or have something checked out, I would have gone.
Yeah.
Right. If I started bleeding, or if something happened, if I was feeling pain, if I was feeling sickness, like sick, other than just a normal nausea, morning sickness, I would have gone and saw someone. But I just trusted my body, dropped in, listened, and we arrived in Austin, Texas, as our landing pad. And as soon as I got there, I emailed Emily from Free Birth Society, and I asked her if there were any radical birth keepers in Austin. And she connected me with one, Isabella, and I set up a meeting with a birthing center, and I set up a meeting with Isabella, and I had a Zoom interview with the birthing center, and I knew right away when one of the midwives answered the call wearing a mask.
Oh God.
That I was not going to birth there.
Yeah.
And then they were going through the protocols and telling me that I would have had to get a COVID test if I birthed there. And I was like, oh, I don't do that. I've never taken a test one time. And they're like, oh, then I don't think we're going to be a good fit. And it was just like, yeah, thank you. I don't either, but I had to go through that motion.
Yeah, totally.
From the first birth, like, no thanks.
Yeah.
And then I interviewed Isabella, and I knew right away that she was the one. She's a radical feminist. That was the energy that I needed for this birth. I needed a radical feminist.
Yeah.
And here for the liberation of women and our voices, and that's like such the power she carries. And I would attend her village prenatals, which she would do monthly, which were essentially women's circles with pregnant women and mamas come in and just sharing our dream births, our visions, sharing our fears, drinking tea, eating snacks. And her and I would meet up like 3 times a month and have our 3-hour-long prenatal meetings, where instead of peeing in a cup and waiting in a sterile room and taking all these tests, I was having my feet massaged and having her do hypnotherapy and planning my postpartum time. And it was so lovely. It was so peaceful to have a pregnancy in that way. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely. That sounds like the dream. Wow. Such complete polar opposite to, industrialized prenatal quote unquote care, because it's not care.
It's not care. No.
Wow.
And she helped plan my mother blessing ceremony, which was so beautiful. We found our house that we were living in. It was our birthing house, we called it, because it was an Airbnb rental that we're like, okay, we're going to birth here and stay here for 6 months. And it was on 10 acres in Dripping Springs, Texas. And the day of my mother blessing was 1 day of snow. They said it hadn't snowed in like 30 years. And the whole city was covered in snow on the day of my mother blessing. And it's just like winter wonderland. And that was in January. And now comes February. Now I'm past my quote due month. So a little bit of fear is coming up from the first birth of like, okay, going past my due dates. Right. And I remember calling Isabella and I was like, just feeling a little, little anxious, or just feeling a little fear coming up. And she assured me that it's okay. And she let me know that another woman in the community just went to just had her baby at 44 weeks. That kind of like gave me a little calm in my heart. And I ended up going into labor that night at exactly 41 weeks. And I was, it's funny how I went into labor. I was starting to feel like cramping, and I didn't know what contractions felt like yet, because I didn't have them at all with my first birth, because it was just, cut short. And one of my friends that I follow on Instagram was doing squats. She's like, squats. She was also pregnant and she was doing squats. I was like, ooh, that sounds nice. So I got up and started doing squats. And then I just feel a trickle come down my leg until my water opened. Do you hear that? The gardener?
I can, but it's not too bad. I
Okay.
can still hear you very well. Yeah.
Okay. And I feel a little trickle come down. And there was meconium in the amniotic fluid. There was some meconium. So that brought up my second kind of fear. Because my sister's baby, my nephew, there was meconium in her fluids, and she ended up having a C-section because of it. The doctors don't like that, you know. And so I had to work through that, and also know that's a variation of normal. And I call Isabella, and she, you know, reassures me that's also a variation of normal. It's okay. And the weather forecast for this time now was that there was a storm coming. And so that day, that Friday that my waters opened was actually the first day of the frost. So everything was covered in ice. Right before my waters opened, I actually went outside and was walking on the land and was taking pictures of all of the trees just covered like in a shell of ice. And it was so beautiful. And there were icicles dripping from, you know, the fence. And then, so when my waters open, I call Isabella and I say, you know, this will probably go on all night. Like, why don't you come over tomorrow? I can probably just sleep through the night and have you come tomorrow. And then I felt that they were consistent. I was feeling consistent sensations. And it was that consistency that had me call her back and say, actually, maybe you should come now, you know, come tonight just in case.
Yeah.
Thank goodness that she did, because she took the last Uber ride to my house before everything closed down for a week due to the storm that came in probably while I was in labor that night. The snow came in. And so she gets to my house. She's not even able to get into my fence because it's iced over. She has to like hop over. And she gets there. I remember I had braided my hair and it felt really sweet. For some reason, I was guided to braid my hair in 2 braids, like my mother would always do as a child. It was like one of my favorite hairstyles to wear. It was 2 braids, and it also felt like this ancestral protection. It felt like I would be safe and protected if my hair was like my childhood hair. And I just remember being in the shower and really just going into my own zone. And Isabella would be there. She would just sit on the bed or sit on the chair, and she didn't say one word the whole time. She would come and hand me cotton balls with peppermint essential oil or lavender essential oil that I would sniff. Or if she saw that I was really moving through something, she would come and like rub my back or rub my feet. I just remember my eyes were closed pretty much the whole time. My eyes were closed and I'd just be moving in different positions. And then Albert, my partner, he was sleeping pretty much the whole time because I told him this will take all night. Go sleep, go get some rest, and go sleep with Kyra, our older son. And then I was in the bearing down phase. And I was like, go get Albert. And she was like, this might be a land baby, because the tub wasn't even blown up yet, the water tub. And that my friend had let me borrow. And they went, blew up the tub. I get in, and I just have this memory just imprinted. It was just so beautiful, the way that the body opens for the baby to come. Because my biggest fear was what I've heard was this ring of fire. And, you know, I was just terrified of this. That was like what I was anticipating. And I just remember breathing and then waiting for the next contraction, the next surge, the next wave. And the head would come out just a little bit and stretch open the yoni. And then it would like go back in, and I would just pause and I would wait for the next wave, and they would come out a little bit more, the head, and then he'd go back in. It was just this like ebb and flow, like the tides. And then he finally just came. I remember, boop, his whole head was out, and I'm just in the water with his head. And I'm like, get in the tub. I tell Albert to get in the water. I wanted him in there. And I just wait for the next one, and it just like, he just like slips out. And just like, there he is. And I remember the first thought I had was, wow, I want to do that again. It was like right away. It's like, I want to do that again. And the whole labor process from my waters opening to baby nature, that's what we named him. It was 9 hours.
Okay. Yeah.
So he was born at 4 in the morning, around 4 in the morning. And so I get out of the tub and I go, and she has me just sit on the toilet for a moment while she goes to like gather the things in the room and finish making the bed up for me. And so I sit on the toilet and my placenta plopped out into the toilet. So that was nice. Like I was also kind of stressed like about that whole thing, the placenta piece, from different stories I would hear sometimes. And so that came out nice and easy. And then we get on the bed and I left the placenta I left it attached to the baby for 12 hours. And when I felt like it was ready, we did a beautiful ceremony with the fire and burning the cord. I had ordered a box from Etsy and did a beautiful ceremony. And then the next day, our pipes freeze and we lost our water for 1 week. We had no running water because the snowstorm came in so hard into Austin. A lot of people call this the snowpocalypse because basically the whole city just went under because the infrastructure was not prepared for a snowstorm like this. And some people lost their lives. You were not able to drive on the roads because of the black ice, and cars were crashing, or people would be off in the ditches freezing, waiting for help to come. And so it was a whole thing. So essentially, if I had planned to be birthing anywhere else but at my house, then I wouldn't have been able to get there. I wouldn't have been able to get to the hospital, to get to the birthing center. So I just think it's so important for everyone to be equipped with the wisdom and the knowledge to birth at home by themselves, because you never know what can happen. Like your midwife might not get there. Totally. Baby might come sooner than you think. So the fact that we had a free birth planned, or what you want to call it, birth outside the system, was incredible. It was just like amazing. And my postpartum time was beautiful because now at this point I had taken Innate Traditions postpartum care training. You were also in that, right?
I was. I've taken it. It's so magical.
We were in it together at the same time, right? In 2020.
Yeah, that's right. We're in the same cohort. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing your name. And I learned so much from that. So I put all the pieces in place to have my postpartum, set up. And even with that, it was still challenging because of the snowstorm. But it was beautiful. I stayed in for 40 days, didn't leave the house for 40 days, had my mom come out for 2 weeks and help. And I coached her and trained her on what to do. And
nice.
I had this beautiful community called Nest and Bold. I was their first client, and they learned with me that they weren't able to meet what we had set up because it was just 2 moms. And they realized they weren't able to make the food and meet up and give it to Albert, come to my house to drop it off and do the massages and, make all the things. So they learned with me that they needed to create another way. And now they have this beautiful whole team of women. They just trained like 15 postpartum doulas. They did a 12-week training. They have a whole community. Every month they do monthly rooted mother circles, and they hold space in the birth. So I had them help me a little bit with nature. They would bring bliss balls they made bliss balls and ghee, and I had one massage from them, and they had herbal tea. But they were able to bring like the food, the kitchery and things. But I was so grateful for them. And then I had a meal train, and that was great. And then I also had there were 2 women through Birth con Madres here in Austin that she would come and do womb massage and do a light belly wrapping. And then the last session, I did a whole closing of the bone ceremony.
Yes.
where they wrap me up, from head to toe in the
Mm-hmm.
rebozos.
Yeah.
And that I was not prepared for. I did not know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
And right before they were wrapping, the last piece of my arms were wrapped, and right before they were covering my eyes, my baby, who's with my friend staying with us, starts crying. So I start feeling like, oh my gosh, maybe I should feed him now before they go into the rest of the ceremony. So I already left my presence from the ceremony.
Yeah.
And that took me out of it. They wrapped me up, and here I am with my completely bound, hearing my baby crying, and I'm not able to go feed him. And that triggered a whole outer body experience where I had to then soothe myself and start praying and soothing and talking to myself and telling myself I'm going to be okay, and that baby's okay, and that he's protected, and he's guided, and go through this whole process. And it literally felt like I was calling my soul, the last pieces that were out, back into me. And that's literally what the closing of the bones is. We're sealing up that portal, being so open and expanded to give birth, and we're coming back into ourselves. And that's literally what I experienced.
Wow.
And I asked her, I was like, is it normal to feel what I felt like? I just wanted to scream, get me out of this. And she said, yeah, some women go through that, but I saw you were doing really well. You were self-soothing, and you were having your own process. So sometimes she said she would guide women through it, but that I was doing well, and she was just drumming and singing. And that was beautiful.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And just like another piece of, that whole closing of that whole experience, and really allowing you to step into that place of mothering with nature and your other son as well.
Yeah, and it was hard navigating, I think, for my husband. He felt, for Albert, that he felt so he basically was caring for Cairo so much, our other son, that he didn't really bond with nature, because he felt like he had to keep him out of the room. And like he was taking him to school, then he would just stay out in the city where his school was, the town, and like stay out there until 5 p.m., then come back home. So there was this distance kind of between him and nature. They now they're the cutest, closest things ever. But he spoke to that piece that I think a lot of fathers go through, like not feeling right away so connected with their son.
Right. Okay.
Or their child. Yeah. And so now moving into the third birth, third pregnancy. So
before we get there, how was the breastfeeding journey with nature?
Oh, amazing. Yeah, with all my babies, like the milk flows, they latch perfectly. There's no pain, there's no bleeding.
Okay.
For some reason, yeah, but breastfeeding for me is amazing. Pregnancy is amazing. Birth, I love it. And so now into the third birth, find out that I'm pregnant last July. And another island conception. Now this baby was conceived in Scotland.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is an island, technically,
Yeah.
So we have three boys, 3 island conceptions. And this pregnancy, now I'm just grateful that we have our home, that we're not moving all around in different Airbnbs and traveling. We did travel a bit, but it was, for vacation, for work. And I had a lovely pregnancy. And I find out, actually, and this is going to be like the first time I'm publicly speaking this, but in January, I find out that my partner basically is in love with another woman, essentially. So he met someone that actually was his client that he was working with. And basically, I find out that they want to be together, that they're soulmates, that they have this whole connection. So I go through that in January of this year, which to me, that's like my worst fear, I think, that happened to like during pregnancy, what's going to happen. So I moved through a lot of grief and sadness and rage and, anger through this third trimester. But I also had so much grace. Like the way I've been handling it has been amazing, beautiful. Like, I'm so proud of myself. Every woman has just like been in shock about the way I've been handling the whole thing. So much compassion for him and trust in the divine plan and trust in my plan. And him and I are going to co-parent together and be great friends. And
Okay.
we
Yeah.
both just see the highest of life. Like, that's something we both have in common, that we both just trust, like, everything's meant to be, like, God's in control of everything. Like,
Yeah.
like, love is the most important thing. We're here to be love. And I'm all about the liberation of the soul. My life path number is a 5. Like, if a soul feels like they need to go on this mission, I'm like, yeah, go be free, you know? Him and I have very mature souls, I think, in that way, that we're not like attached and like,
yeah.
And so
Okay.
a lot of people don't really understand that, you know. They want me to be so mad and they want me to hate him and they want, you know, but I just I can't go there.
Yeah,
I've
and
really been
why do it? It just takes up energy, and space, like you said, that you could be using for love. And if that's the way that you want to go, just loving him, loving yourself, loving your children,
yes,
then it's like, why do you
it's
need to bring the hate and all of that in if it's just be
yes.
disservice and make everybody miserable when it
Uh-huh.
doesn't have to be miserable? So I
And
think
I
that's
could
great.
feel, yeah, it's a choice. And I basically,
Yeah.
what this has given me, it's shown me kind of the micro and the macro of the world, that it's easy to go the hate route. The ego loves to stay there. The wounded self, the inner child, that this is bringing up so much inner child wounding, can easily go into the hate, into the separation, into the fear,
Yeah.
which is probably where most of society is. And we could see that in the wars and in the, divorces and all the stories we hear all the time, right? But to choose the love and to choose the trust, which is choosing God, goddess, creator, is like actually harder to do, but it feels so much better. Like, when you actually are there, it feels so much better for the nervous system and for the heart. And not saying that I'm bypassing the feelings. I've cried. I have been expressing anger. I've called her a home wrecker. I've like done all the things.
Yeah.
But then I could feel that I'm leaving my body when I go there, and I could feel that I'm lowering my vibration, but it needs to be expressed and move through that rage. And then I can go back into the true love and
Absolutely.
really hold it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so for this pregnancy, I didn't know what I wanted. Interesting. I was like, maybe I want to have like a bunch of sisters there, like doing sound bowls, or maybe I'm going to have one like radical birth keeper from Nest and Bowl. They're doulas, but they'll come and hold space at your birth. So technically they're birth keepers, right? If there's one woman at your birth, right?
Yeah.
I also had a midwife friend that I was working with. I attended actually my first birth in March.
Oh,
and
cool.
I was working with another sister who just got her license as a midwife, and we had this beautiful flow together where, like, okay, we can work together. And if there's a woman that wants you to be her midwife, she wants a licensed midwife, but then something happens and she needs a radical birth keeper there, I can step in. So we're going to have this beautiful relationship.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, maybe I'll have her at my birth. And then I just decided to go with Nest and Bowl, the women that have the postpartum care support, and the doulas. And okay, so now what am I? So funny, I don't even remember exactly the weeks. 41 weeks and a few days. And my waters. Oh, okay. So, and to actually scoot back a little bit. So I decided, I decided that we're going to stay living together through the pregnancy and through the early postpartum time. And then once we get through that, we'll figure it out. But I didn't want to be pregnant with raising 2 toddlers by myself and having to take out the trash, like, do these things. I was like, I just want to stay in this bliss and this peace, like, as a happy family while I'm pregnant. Honor that, like. And so he did, and we get along so well, so that was easy to do. And so now it's Saturday night on April 15th. I remember I'm like, I don't want my baby to come on tax day. So he came the next day, April 16th. So I'm going into, it's Saturday evening, and my mucus plug breaks, and I didn't know what that was because I didn't have that with my other babies. So I'm like Googling pictures, like pictures of a mucus plug. I'm like, yep, that's definitely it. And then I'm feeling light contractions, and I go to sleep through them. And sometimes I'd wake up and I'd have to breathe through them like 30 seconds and 15 seconds, 30 seconds, and then I'd like go back to sleep. And I'm actually taking right now an Ayurveda doula training, and I did another course while I was pregnant that was basically for anyone that just Ayurvedic wellness, Ayurvedic ways to love your labor, something like that. I need to figure out the exact name of the class, like Ayurvedic ways for an easier labor. And as soon as my mucus plug broke and came out and I was feeling the contractions, I ate a teaspoon of honey, which is like one of the things that I learned to do. I ate a teaspoon of honey. I gave myself a Abhyanga massage. I took a bath, and I did a sesame oil basti, which is an enema.
Okay.
And so it felt really nice to like have these beautiful rituals in place that I didn't know about before.
Right.
And the enema was really nice, felt like cleared me out the next day. So in the morning I wake up and I'm not feeling any contractions, any rushes, and for a while, for like a few hours. And my friend had invited me to this event in Austin called the Healing House, and it was at Soho House. And I'm kind of like, should I go or not? So I kind of take my time. Contractions are starting to come back a little bit here and there. So I go and take a bath, and I ended up driving to this event. And I'm like feeling contractions pretty much throughout, like driving, parking my car, walking to the event. I got there late, so I missed the like opening, everyone talking in a circle, which I'm glad. And I missed the yoga flow, which I'm glad. And I got there for breath work and sound bath. And so I'm doing the breath work. They close all the blinds. It's dark with candles and rose mandalas, and there's a piano, and there's a guitar. And I'm doing this breath work, and the teacher is playing Lana Del Rey so loud, and he's saying things like, it's time to set yourself free from the cage you have imprisoned yourself in, which is a huge theme of my life. It is time to shine. The world is waiting for you, like to be you. He just has a beautiful teaching throughout the breath work, and there was a lot of movement involved in it. And I'm doing it. I modify as needed. And then we go into the sound bath, and the sound bath is beautiful. They're playing the piano, playing the guitar, doing all the things, and I'm falling in and out of sleep. And I feel a contraction, and I feel a burst, and I just feel the water start gushing. Wow. And they're singing a song, we are remembering, as my amniotic fluids are going all over the yoga mat and the floor and the pillow that I'm sitting on. And I open my eyes and I see my friend who was there. I had two girlfriends there, and I see her walk by. She just went to the bathroom, I guess. And I'm like, come over here. And she goes, I show her, just like point to my wet pants. And she's like, oh my God, baby's coming. They're ready. And she goes and tells the people putting on the event, and they come over to me like, what do you need? I asked for towels. I was like, is this a hotel? I was like, I didn't really understand what the Soho House is. It's like some fancy place. I'm like, are there towels here? So they come and bring me like a stack of hand towels, and I gather my things, and we start making our way out. And then two men come walking down the hallway with huge stacks of pool towels. Like it was like a scene from a movie in a whole better way. They give us glass bottles of Avion water, and I take one towel and wrap it around myself, and then we head down the elevator, and the concierge tells me that she called the ambulance. She's like, I called you an ambulance, like thinking she's helping, that we want that. And I was like, peace. No, and I actually hear the ambulance arrive, which was so funny. And we leave, and my friend drives my car home, because now I'm like in full on labor. Like there would have been no way I could have drove my car. And our other friend follows us, and we get to my house, and I just get in the bath. And she had got me some food, and they're both with me. And the one friend leaves, the other one is still there. She's actually a doula, which is cool. And she blew up the tub for me. And then once the doula that I was having be at my birth arrived there, and Albert came back with the boys, because they were at a birthday party. My other friend leaves. And so my waters opened at 5 p.m. At Soho House, and the baby was born at 8:19.
Whoa.
So that was it was like a little more than 3 hours of leaving, driving, getting all that. And so I'm just like in the bath for a little bit. I get in the shower for a little bit, and then I get into the closet, the walk-in closet. I kind of put like a lot of pillows down, and I just remember my arms were so tired. I don't know if it was like this energy thing from all I was carrying, but it didn't feel normal how sore and tired my arms were for how little bit of time I was laboring.
Okay.
I remember just thinking like, how am I going to go 10 more hours, 15 more hours with these arms? Like I couldn't hold myself up anymore. And Albert comes. So I made this beautiful list from my class that I took about what I wanted in the birth. And it was so beautiful. I felt like a goddess. The things I had were feed me teaspoons of honey. I want to smell like roses. So they were rubbing essential oil rose on me. I said, I want clary sage cold washcloths put on me, on my neck, on my face, on my low belly, on my back.
Yeah.
They were doing that. She was doing that. I had a whole just beautiful list, and they did it all. But one thing I didn't put on the list, which I'm really sad about, is I didn't say, please record the labor and take pictures.
Oh.
So I have like hardly any pictures. I haven't even looked at them yet because I'm like sad to really know that I have no pictures. There was a few in the pool. I was like, take a video. So I do have a video of like the very end, which that's cool. I'm very grateful. Just like my ass in the air. So most of my labor, like bearing down, was on the toilet, facing the toilet.
Yeah.
Sitting on the toilet, straddling, and like pooping in the toilet because it was like really pushing down, pooping in the toilet. I felt good and safe there and open there. And I remember just like leaning down on the trash can with my one arm. And then I crawl over into the tub, and I'm like, I think it's time to get in the water. And I get in the water, and like literally within like 5 minutes, baby comes out.
Wow.
And again, it was the whole thing I learned from the last one. Just wait for the surges and let the head come out. And I was just like, I love you. I love you. I love you. I just remember saying I love you to the baby. And baby came out, and both my boys were there to watch. So the brothers were there. Albert was there. He was holding the sacred masculine space of keeping the kids out of the room. And he would kind of weave in and out with me. And then they were all there to see the baby come. And we saw it was a boy. We didn't know, saw it was a boy, like 3 boys. And then I just remember my perineum, like an area was just so sore. I just wanted to stay in the water. I just needed to rest for a moment in the water. And I'm holding him, and we get out, get on the bed. And then I'm waiting for the placenta to come, and it come again pretty quickly. I had to push a little bit and like kind of get in this position to help it get out. And we end up getting the placenta, and we do a lotus birth. So I was able to I have this beautiful bag that we put the placenta in and put salt and herbs over the placenta and left it attached until it fell off. Took 3 days to fall off, which was pretty quick too, I think. And another just beautiful postpartum time. I'm still in it right now. It's been amazing. The meal train, because now I have much more community than I did when we first came to Austin.
Yeah.
The meal train has been popping. The sisters have been holding me through this whole time because they know what was happening with Albert and I. My mother blessing ceremony that I had a month before was a full-on priestess initiation, holding me through the transformation that I'm going through. The ancestors were there, the goddesses were there, the orishas. It was, everything shifted for me there. My friends said like they could literally saw like the light come back on in my face, like my eyes, like everything shifted during that ceremony. And because I'll just tell you that this is crazy, but this woman that my partner is with, or thinks this is soulmate, actually told him back in October that she had a vision that something was going to happen to me at the birth.
Seriously?
Yeah. And so he told me this because I was asking him like, what's going on? Because I felt like something shifted, right? Every time I would ask him, he wasn't able to tell me. Then this one time he asked me, he just kept saying, we just need to get through the birth. We need to get through the birth. He just kept talking about the birth and being all scared. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then he said, you know how she gets visions, and she's like, he's basically said something might happen to you at the birth. Like that's what he believed, and he planted that seed in me.
Whoa.
So that itself was a full on process for me for the rest of my third trimester. I was basically having to clear that seed out of my mind, but it was so hard. It was like, you know, so
That's a
that for
really
me,
deep and powerful seed to ingrain into somebody, you know.
yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I look at like why that happened, right, on like the higher spiritual level, like why that even came into my field. And I think it was for me to own my power even more, like any remaining bits of self-doubt that I have in me are just being reflected in my outer environment, right? And so it was just this time for me to say like, no, like no one can have these visions. No one can tell me about these visions. Like I trust myself. I trust God. I trust, you know, it was just more of that power and energy. Oh gosh, that was just crazy to have to go through. And
I bet. Wow.
yeah. And so now I'm just like happy that I'm still here. Like everything went well. It was amazing, the birth. And now I'm in my postpartum time. So yeah, my mother blessing was calling in the protection, you know, calling in the protection for the birth. And we did a beautiful despacho ceremony on the land here. My friend put this beautiful tray of roses and pearls and like all these different crystals, amethyst crystals and rose quartz, this huge tray, and and we buried it on the land here at the house and just called in so many blessings and prayers. And Nest and Bowl, they're here again for my postpartum time, and they have 2 doulas that come twice a week for 4 hours, and they cook and they make different drinks for me, and they help clean up, and they hold baby, and they just give me massages. And I've had once a week professional massage, like full body massage, come to the house. Meal train's been great, like I said, and mixed in with their food they make. My mom was here for a week, and I haven't left the house, like I've said. And my 42 days is up on the 28th of May.
Okay, yeah.
I did 2 times I went out for a walk around just the neighborhood, starting to get that going. And I just kind of check in with myself, like, how did that feel? How does my body feel? And it definitely lets you know when you've been standing up. My body lets me know when I've been standing up too long, and you know, I'll start to like, I'll get hemorrhoid, right? Like it'll come like through that way. That's kind of like my biggest physical thing right now that I'm like going through. Or like I'll bleed a little more. So it's like, okay, lay down, get back in the bed. Yeah.
Oh, I love that, because you're just so connected to your trust and everything that you've gone through from that first birth experience, unnecessary cesarean, to your second son birthing at home in a snowstorm, to then having this last son, you know, his birth started in the Soho house, his water opened on these yoga mats, but you just, you know, you could have gone into a state of panic and, you know, thought, oh my gosh, like it's happening now. Like, okay, good, the ambulance is here. Let's just go straight to the hospital. But you've just stuck to that trust that you keep saying, and that trust in God and Creator and yourself. And it's so beautiful to see you carry that through, and everything that comes your way that could, you know, could have been something to really break you down. It's like, nope, I can take that and switch it and turn it into my power. I absolutely love that. That's why these stories are just so beautiful that you're sharing them. And thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be able to listen to these and witness you in this.
And now I feel like I have a whole new community of women that I can connect with on, you know, partners leaving while you're pregnant, you know, that whole, it's a whole other realm that I never thought I would be in and tap into. But, you know, I work with women. It's like, and just like, okay, here we go. Whole new mission.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
A whole new power.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's so beautiful to see you in this power and stepping up, you know, really taking what's been given to you, and, you know, feeling the feelings that need to be felt, but also not just kind of stewing and wallowing in them. And really, like I said, stepping into your power and claiming that strength, and being like, I'm here, I'm a woman, I'm a mother, and I got this. So yeah, it's really great. Is there anything else that you wanted to share about your pregnancy, birth, and postpartum experience?
I'm just so grateful for the sisters, like for the women. It just gives me this whole experience this time has just given me a whole new profound respect and just admiration and deep gratitude for women you know, like maidens and mothers and crones, like just what we do is like, psh, like it's everything. The way we hold each other, the way we birth, and the way we hold each other in birth, and
yeah, women are incredible.
Nothing like it.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. And as you said, now that you're, you know, percolating and working in this new way with women, of, you know, partners that have left during pregnancy and such as transformational time, if someone is going through this experience or just wants to reach out to you and gain deeper wisdom from you, from all of your experiences, how can women reach out to you and get to your contact?
Yeah, you can find me Divine Davana. That's my Instagram. That is also my website. You can sign up for my newsletters. I'm going to start coming out. I'm going to be coming out. I took a little break. I took a year off to rest and rejuvenate, and I'm going to be coming back with some new offerings and you know, new website. But right now you can get there at Divine Davana and reach out to me through there. DivineDavana.com. Davana. It's a flower.
Nice. Oh, wonderful. Oh, honestly, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story, and yeah, just bringing that light in. Like you were saying at your mother blessing, your friends could notice this light coming back into you, and I can see it radiating from you now. So
thank you. Yay.
Thank
you, Karma.
Yeah. Wow. This was so amazing. And I'm so grateful for this experience to be able to talk with you and hear these beautiful stories.
Thank you, sisters, so much for listening to this episode of the Free Birthing in Color podcast. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one in a primal activation session, donate to the podcast, or to have your story featured here or in the blog, go to primalwomanportal.com for all the information to do so. Did you want to connect with our guest speaker? You can find all her information linked within the show notes. And if you have time, please subscribe, write a review, and tell a friend to have a listen so that this podcast and these stories of women birthing in their total power can be shared far and wide. Don't forget to check out the show notes for information on the Earth Daughters Women's Festival, the Breach Without Borders workshop, and much more. New episodes drop every Thursday morning, so stay tuned for the next amazing story to be shared on any platform that you prefer to listen to your podcasts on, or watch these episodes on the Free Birthing in Color YouTube page. And remember, your voice and your story matters. So if you're a woman of color or an Indigenous woman who's had a wild pregnancy and or birth outside of the medical system, submit your story, because it's so important that your voice is heard and celebrated in your radical journey of pregnancy, birth, and motherhood.